hi there. What's up, dog? Do they say what's up, dog anymore? I think that's 20 years out of date, isn't it? The older I get, the more my vocabulary gets quickly out of date. You know what's really funny is that I grew up in the 80s, so I say a lot of stupid 80s shit like, rad, that's rad. My son was like, is it rad? Is it rad, Dad? Okay, fuck you. So then I married a woman who grew up in the 90s. She's 10 years younger than me. So she'll say 90s shit and I'll see 80s shit. We won't understand what we're saying. So like I'll do something like face. Now, if you're from the 80s, you know what that means. If you are of any other generation other than Generation X, you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Right. So then she'll say something, what she used to say, she still says this. She'll say, you're killing me, Smalls. What? I'm like, what the fuck is that? Now, if you didn't grow up in the 90s, you have no idea what the fuck that means. If you grew up in the 90s, you know exactly what that means. I had to look up what that means. She had to explain it. It's from some fucking movie called Sandlot, which I've never seen because I'm not a fucking nerd who grew up in the 90s. So anyway, we can do a whole podcast on that. But this podcast is not about that. This podcast today, Alpha Male 2.0, Caleb Jones, this podcast is about anti-aging, specifically using techniques or methodologies related to human growth hormone, metformin, and human growth hormone peptides. Because I get a lot of questions about this, something I'm doing regularly, something I'm doing for a while, and you guys have a lot of questions about this, so I will do a podcast on this. And this podcast on this is today. So, first off, disclaimer, as always when I talk about this shit, this is not a podcast about fitness. I do not teach fitness. I am overweight, therefore I cannot teach fitness. I am fascinated at the number of men who want me to give fitness advice on lifting weights and stretching and all kinds of shit. I don't give fitness advice or dieting. I am not your guy. Now, what I can talk about and what I am going to talk about and what I do talk about in terms of Alpha Male 2.0 is anti-aging, looking youthful as you get older, and I can certainly talk about that. I'm pretty young looking compared to my age. I'm 50, especially considering that I am overweight and I'm still young looking. It's kind of good. So I can certainly talk about that, and that is a big priority for me, and it needs to be a priority for you as an Alpha Male 2.0 because unlike beta males and most alpha male 1.0s, alpha male 2.0s will never be monogamous. So we may settle down with a special woman like I have, but you will never be monogamous. You'll still having sex with other women for the rest of your life, which means over time, you'll need to bring new women into your sex life. And if you look like shit, which is what most men do as they get over age 40, 45, if you start looking like shit because you're older, that's going to be a problem. Unless you're very wealthy and you want to pay hookers the rest of your life, which I guess is another path you could take. But it's not just about sex. It's also about self-esteem. It's about a lot of things. People taking you seriously, business success. I mean, if a big corporation is considering two different companies for a contract and both of the main reps from both these companies are around the same age, say they're both 50, and one looks pretty damn good for his age and one looks like fucking shit, which one is more likely to get the contract? They've done studies about this. It's the guy who looks younger, or at least looks better. So, anti-aging. I am not talking about fitness. I'm talking about anti-aging. Okay, I'm going to specifically talk about anti-aging in terms of human growth hormone, metformin, and human growth hormone peptides, but I will probably also touch on testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, which is another core component of this. So in my opinion, let me give you another disclaimer. I am not a doctor. Please check with a qualified medical professional before doing anything I talk about or recommend in this podcast. I am not rendering any medical advice. I have to give these disclaimers. You foreigners who are outside the United States, like me, I have to give these disclaimers because I don't want to get sued in the United States. You have to do this. Fucking stupid. All right. All the disclaimers out of the way. In my non-doctor opinion, the first step in anti-aging is testosterone. So as you get older, and when I say older, I have a very specific age for that. That is age 35. So there is a line at age 35 a man crosses where he is no longer a younger man. Now he's an older man. I didn't say he's old. A 36-year-old is not old. He's older. A 36-year-old is not young anymore. So if you are under the age of 35, you are what I consider a younger man. 34 or under, you're a young guy, and you probably don't need to worry about anti-aging yet. Although the sooner you get a jump on this stuff, the better. When I talk about things like skin regimen, if you can start your skin regimen in your 20s or early 30s, that's way better than waiting till you're 42 to start it. I started mine when I was about 34. And I'm 50. I'm 49. I'm about to turn 50 in a few months here. So older means you hit age 35. So when you cross over to age 35, certainly when you cross over to age 40, I've already talked about this on other materials, blog articles and videos and things like that. Your testosterone really starts to drop hard. You will start to feel it in your body. You will have less energy. Your sleep will not be as good. Your sex in some cases will not be as good. You'll be a little more distracted at work. You won't be as motivated or excited as you were in your 20s. I mean, that's just very normal for men in their 40s. And unfortunately, when you go to your stupid Western doctor and you say, hey, doc, I'm not feeling as excited and motivated as I am, and it's easier for me to gain weight, my dick doesn't work as well, he'll say, well, you're 47, that's perfectly normal. You're perfectly fine. Fucking hell, shoot me. Fucking doctors. Anyway, so the first thing you need to address in terms of your anti-aging is testosterone, not human growth hormone peptides, and maybe not even metformin. I think you need to address testosterone first. So I was on TRT many years before I even looked at human growth hormone peptides, and metformin. That's just my opinion. I think you need to get testosterone first. And per my standards, again, I'm not a doctor, this is my layman's opinion, your total testosterone using American measurements should be between 700 and 1200. That's the ideal range. And my goal is to be within that range, actually the high end of that range, for the rest of my life until I die in my 120s or whatever, 90s, 80s, whatever. That's my goal. Last time I got my testosterone checked, I was about 1130 total testosterone. So I have the testosterone of an 18-year-old man. Okay, guys, when I do these long videos like the AMA videos I do, they go, where do you get all your energy? Well, one of the reasons, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the many reasons is I have the testosterone of an 18-year-old. Kind of helps. But that's not the only reason. It's other lifestyle stuff I've talked about. I drink lots of water. I get 8 hours of sleep a night. I have lots of sex. Okay, I have very exciting goals for myself. I don't drink coffee. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke anything. We could count all the reasons, and they do apply to anti-aging, but we're getting slightly off topic. Okay. So address your testosterone first. Now that usually means you're taking testosterone. If you're taking injectables, you're taking testosterone plus HGH, which is what I take, which maintains your natural testosterone. So your exogenous testosterone stacks on top. Exogenous means it comes from outside of your body. If you don't want to do injectables, a lot of guys get the implant, which is perfectly fine. That's not my favorite, but it does work. A lot of you in the alpha male 2.0 community are doing that right now. You have the implant. Great. That's fine. Some guys ask about testosterone creams. These are creams you literally put on your balls. They work only if your testosterone is a little low. If your testosterone is very low, you're going to need the implant or the injectables or something else. So I would address that first, and I would consider the other things, metformin, HGH, things like that, as the second level, the phase 2, as you get even older. Now you may say, well, Caleb, what if I'm in my late 50s, early 60s, what have you, and I'm not doing any of this shit? Could I just do both at the same time? Sure, you could certainly do that. That's a lot to take in at once, and there's a lot of research and things you need to do, a lot of lifestyle adjustments you'll need to make. And so I wouldn't take all of it on once. I would still do testosterone first, kind of get the groove of the testosterone within 6 months, and then 6 months later start the other stuff. That's my opinion. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor. If your doctor says, no, shit, you start all right now, then do what your doctor says. Now, that's the other thing, too. I always throw this out there. Whenever you're doing this stuff, TRT, human growth hormone, whatever, please, for the love of God, do this under the supervision of a good doctor, a good endocrinologist, or a good anti-aging doctor, or what have you. Do not do this by yourself. Like these young guys in their 20s who watch all these YouTube videos on how to do steroids, and they get fucking jacked as fuck and they destroy their bodies. And they do it all themselves with blood. Don't do that. If you're a young guy, you can fuck with your body all you want. Go ahead, okay? I'm talking to you older fuckers. If you're an old man, you can't play games with your body anymore. Please work with a good doctor. Human growth hormone, peptides, I don't care what the fuck you're doing. TRT, work under the close supervision of a good doctor who you are regularly submitting regular blood tests to. Don't do this shit on your own. And I see guys do this. They kind of work with a doctor for a while, and they stop doing blood tests. I get blood panels done normally, this year's been a little weird, but normally once every 8 months or so. I get a full blood panel. I do a CBC, CMP, testosterone, thyroid, vitamin. I get everything tested. And I take a look at it. I submit it to my doctor. I go over those numbers because those numbers are important to me. So be aware of this. Don't get lazy on this shit. I'm going to do this literally for the rest of my life. I'm going to be on TRT or its future equivalent, which will be better, the rest of my fucking life until I die. That's it. And I'm going to be doing blood tests and that kind of stuff the rest of my life until I die. Kind of like getting STD tests. I get regular STD tests, blood tests, once or twice a year. I'm gonna be doing that for the rest of my life until I die, because I will never be monogamous. It's just part of my life now. I also do things like I donate blood. I donate blood once every, once every 5 months. Matter of fact, I may actually up that to once every 2 to 3 months. You can do it up to once every 63 days. You can't do it less than that. I think 63 or 64 days. Because I had some numbers look like something was spiking. Like, I should probably, and they were saying you should probably donate blood more. But anyway, I'm experimenting with that. That could just be because of the craziness of this year. A lot of crazy stuff's happening to me this year in terms of my routine and my travel and getting sick. And those of you guys who follow my content, you already know all that stuff. So anyway, that is something, in my opinion, you should commit to long term. TRT, human growth hormone, whatever, it's not something you just do and then later you change your mind and stop doing it. I don't think that's very smart. Now, something happens, obviously, to your health. If you get cancer or something and your doctor says, hey, you have to go off the TRT because you have cancer, well, obviously you would do that at that time. But other than these catastrophic events, you should be on these things. You should do these things for the long haul, in my strong opinion. Now, let's talk about metformin first. So metformin is a pill. You take it either once a day or once every other day, and it does a number of things. It helps you in terms of anti-aging. It also helps you in terms of reducing insulin spiking. It also helps you burn fat. I think one of the reasons that I have not gained weight, I've actually lost weight, but I have not gained weight even on days when I'm not a very good boy in terms of my diet, especially when I'm traveling and things, is because I take metformin. I take metformin usually every day, small pill, and you usually take it at night. And it helps all these things. It's pretty good. I have buddies who've been taking metformin now for 9, 10, 11 years. A few of them I've talked to. They've had great results. They look great. They feel great. Their body fat percentages are reasonably low, especially for older men, because these are all older guys. It is not like human growth hormone. It has nothing to do with that. It is a bolster. It's a corollary to those things. There are other benefits to metformin that really don't apply to me, but there are some athletic benefits and things like that you could look into. But it's basically just a pill you take. Now, the question I get is, well, how do I get this? It's used to treat diabetes patients, which is true. Well, how do I get a prescription? An endocrinologist or a testosterone doctor can give you a prescription for this. And it depends what country you live in, if it's complicated. I have not actually pursued getting metformin in Dubai. Have I? Let me think a minute. Have I talked to a doctor about metformin specifically? I don't think so. So right now I get my metformin for the United States, which is fine. Some of my TRT stuff and anti-aging stuff I get in Dubai. Some of it I get in the United States. It depends on what's available and what's cheaper. So some stuff I get more easily and cheaper in Dubai, or better vials, smaller bottles for travel and things like that I get in the United States. And stuff's just easier to get in the United States, so I do both, which is fine. But that's metformin. Of all these topics, metformin is the one that is kind of the most simple. It's just a pill you take. It's not a shot or any of that stuff. It's just a pill you take. Not a big deal. No side effects that I'm aware of. I've experienced 0 side effects from metformin. There are no side effects. I mean, if you read the research papers, the side effects are very rare and weird. But the vast majority of the men I know who take metformin have experienced no side effects. I certainly haven't. So there you go. Metformin. That's the first thing. And you know what? If you are a chubby motherfucker like me, that's something you should be looking at sooner. Metformin will help you faster than if you're a skinny fucker. Now, if you're a skinny fucker, you can certainly take metformin too. It has some anti-aging properties. Or if you have diabetes in your family. So if you're a skinny guy, but you have lots of diabetes genetically, you might want to look into metformin. That will definitely reduce your odds of getting diabetes. Pretty cool. I actually think about, I have a very fat family. And so both my direct family and my mom's side of the family, which is the family I take after in my physicality, my mom has 8 brothers and they all look like me. I've mentioned this before. And I'm curious to know, some of them have gotten so fat that they've died from obesity and diabetes and things like that. I'm curious to know if these guys were on metformin, started taking metformin, in their 40s, maybe they'd still be alive today. I don't know. I really don't know. But you have these thoughts about these technologies that now exist that didn't exist maybe 20 years ago or were weird 20 years ago, although metformin's been around a long time. Anyway, so that's metformin. So now let's talk about human growth hormone. Human growth hormone, it's called IGF. It's something you get tested for. And why is it called growth hormone? It's the hormone that allows you to grow when you're a child and getting into puberty and adolescence. When you take human growth hormone, does it make you actually grow? No, it does not. It does not. Now, sometimes if you overdo the growth hormone, weird shit can happen, like your head can get really big or your hands can get really big because you're taking too much, because you're fucking stupid, you're a maniac. By the way, the same rule applies to human growth hormone and things like that as it applies to testosterone. So testosterone, healthy levels are between 700 and 1200. If you go above 1200 in testosterone, as I said many fucking times, if you go to 2000 or 3000 or 4000, that's steroids. That's not healthy. That will fuck your body. Yes, you'll get big muscles, but you will fuck your health. You can even die because your body was never designed to synthesize that much T. It was designed to synthesize between 700 and 1200, not more than that. So I will never go above 1200 because I'm not stupid. Human growth hormone works the same way. You'll need to take a very tiny amount on a daily basis to get the benefits. If you take more than that, weird shit's gonna start happening to your body, so don't fucking do that. Same deal. Now, do I take human growth hormone right now? No, I do not. Why not? Well, the primary reason is cost. And so there's several different ways in which you can take human growth hormone. The most convenient and best way to take it is with a pen, like a reloadable pen. It's an injectable. You have to inject it. And if you like, you can go on my Alpha Male 2.0 YouTube channel. I have an entire video where I demonstrate me actually injecting my testosterone. If you want a visual detail of how I do that every day, or at least most days in the morning. So human growth hormone is something you would take every day. I do not do it yet because to do it correctly, do the way I want to do it, is at least $1,400 a month. Could I afford that right now? Of course I could afford it. That's not the issue. I could buy a Lamborghini right now cash. Am I going to go buy a Lamborghini right now? No, it's not good use of my money. So in my opinion, I don't have the income yet to justify that expense. And unlike testosterone, you won't suddenly start making more money when you take human growth hormone. Well, you will with testosterone. When I went on TRT, my income went up 82%, okay, because I was more focused and even more motivated than I already am, or already was. So you can justify the cost of testosterone because your income will probably go up, especially if you're an alpha male 2.0 and self-employed. And testosterone is only a few $100 a month, depending on how you do it. Human growth hormone is well more than a few $100 a month. It's $1,400 a month and up from there. And you won't suddenly get more energy from human growth hormone. Not really. I mean, a little bit. You'll get a little more endurance and things like that. But you're not gonna make more money when you take human growth hormone. So you really can't justify it on that basis. So that's why I've been kind of putting it off. I will start doing it probably next year when I turn 50. I would have liked to have started doing human growth hormone maybe a year or two ago in my late 40s. I just couldn't justify the cost. And I look pretty good. So, you know, look pretty good as in look pretty young for my age. So I wasn't super worried about it. But yeah, getting into my 50s and I'm going to be making more money next year. So I should be able to justify the cost that time. So what you can do in the interim, if you can't afford human growth hormone or don't want to take it or don't want to take that step, because that's a big step to take. That's the other thing too, is I haven't completed my research on human growth hormone. How much to take, potential side effects, things like that. I know a lot of celebrities take it. I'm sure Stallone takes it. I'm sure Arnold Schwarzenegger takes it. Female celebrities like, what's her name? Nicole Kidman takes human growth hormone. She looks pretty damn good, doesn't she? See, she's old. She looks goddamn good, so it's working on her. But various ways to take it, research potential side effects. I do a lot of research before I put anything in my body. And to repeat, just like with testosterone, I'm only going to take a little tiny bit a day. I want to say it's not 1 ml. It's one. I don't want to give measurements because I could be wrong on this one. I was going to say 1 ml a day, but that's not right. Very, very little amount every day when I start taking it next year. So, getting back to what I was about to say, what you can do as a halfway there approach is you can take human growth hormone peptides. What are these? Well, these are chemical compounds that are not human growth hormone, but stimulate human growth hormone in your body. So it stimulates natural production of human growth hormone. So there are no side effects. It's much more natural, much more healthy. It's harder to put too much because not much is going to happen. And they're really cheap. So a vial of peptides will cost you maybe 45 bucks, 80 bucks at the most, right? And that'll last you a month. So it's a little different than $1,400 a month, don't you think? Yeah, so it's really cheap. Now you do have to inject them every day, or at least what we do is both me and Pink Firefly do this. We take peptides. It's an injectable. We take them 5 days a week. And it will help boost human growth hormone, even though you're not actually taking human growth hormone. Perfect corollary to this is testosterone and HCG. So I take testosterone and I take HCG. I could, if I wanted to, I wouldn't do this, but you could just take HCG, and that's not testosterone, but it stimulates testosterone production in your body. It's not as good as taking real testosterone, but it's a halfway there measure. It does help. So that's what peptides do. Now, there are different types of peptides, and I am not an expert in this area. I am not Derek with More Plates, More Dates. He would be an expert in this area, but I am not an expert. So there are various peptides. They end with morellin or ellen. And so I take a peptide called ipamorelin. That's the peptide that I take. Now, I don't take just ipamorelin. I take it with another chemical compound called CJC1295. See how complicated this shit gets? And so that is mixed in with the ipamorelin in the same vial. So it's called duo blend. It's ipamorelin plus this 1295 compound, which increases the effectiveness of the ipamorelin without any side effects. And so I take a very, very tiny amount. If you can imagine an insulin syringe, if you're listening to this, I can't show you, and on the YouTube video, I don't have one handy. But anyway, you can imagine an insulin syringe that goes to 1 through 10. You just load to the 1, so it's a teeny, teeny, tiny amount that you inject usually in the evening, 5 days a week. You can do it every day. My understanding is better do it 5 days a week to give your body a break. Unlike testosterone and other injectables, this is a fat injection. So instead of injecting it into the muscle, intramuscular is what they call it, you inject it into your fat. So what I do is I pinch a little fat on my stomach and inject it into my fat. Ow, that hurts. It doesn't really hurt. The needles you use, I've said this before, if you use what's called high gauge needles, they're very tiny needles. They don't really hurt, or they barely hurt. It's not a big deal. And it's in and out in a few seconds. Literally, not even a second. You inject, pump, pull out. You can do it in a second. So it's not a big deal at all. There's a big debate on whether or not you inject testosterone or things like that into the muscle or into the body fat. I have no strong opinion on that debate. I really don't care. What I do, per the video you can watch on my YouTube channel, is I inject my testosterone, my HCG, and I also take a vitamin B injection directly into my muscle. I use my delts, so that's my shoulder muscles, and then my ipamorelin compound with the 1295, I inject into my stomach. So, not into my stomach, I know it sounds horrible, stomach fat. That's what I do. So now, in my case, I do this at night, and as I've mentioned before, I am not 100% on my night routine. So I have had my personal challenges with injecting ipamorelin because of a few things. Number one, ipamorelin and most human growth hormone peptides are useless if you eat any carbs before you take them. So if you eat something, especially if you eat any carbohydrates, and then you take the ipamorelin shot, it basically nullifies the whole thing. It wipes the whole thing out. So you have to be super careful about not eating any carbs approximately 3 to 4 hours before you take the injection. And so if you take it at night and you even throw like a little bite of ice cream or something, or, you know, anything, really, a piece of bread or any carbs, and the evening, you basically have nullified that evening in terms of taking ipamorelin, unless you want to stay up another 3 or 4 hours past your bedtime. So that's tricky, number one. Number two, another big problem for international folks like myself is that, like HCG, ipamorelin, unfortunately, drives me nuts, has to be refrigerated. It's a problem when you travel a lot. Even if you have a refrigerator in where you're traveling, you'll go somewhere for a week, you'll mix a vial. So what happens is you mix it together, just like HCG. You have this powder, you have this water, and that is okay. That doesn't have to be refrigerated. But once you mix them together, you now have a vial that can last you up to a month. But if that ever gets warm, you kill the whole vial, okay? Problem. So what I will do is I will go to Paraguay or something, or Panama or wherever, Armenia, for a week. When I arrive, I'll mix a new vial, I'll inject all week. Then I gotta go on a plane for 8 hours or 10 hours or 14 hours or 12 hours. It's gonna get warm. At some point on the way to the airport or in the airport or in the plane, well, Caleb, just put a cold, can of Coke, or put one of those cold packs. That's fine on the way to the airport. Then I get to the airport, I go through security. That's an issue right there with those kinds of things. I may have to throw it away. Even if they're allowed through security, I gotta get on the plane, and I'm on the plane for 14 hours or 12 hours or 8 hours. It's gonna get warm. And then I have to leave the airport, right? I gotta leave, that cold pack's gonna melt or get warm. I gotta leave the airport, get into a taxi or an Uber. What if it's sunny out? You're fucked. So it gets complicated. Either you have to buy many, many vials and are constantly throwing vials away because they might get warm and you have to mix a new vial, which raises your cost, which I've done a few times, or you have times you just don't inject for a week. So it's been a little dicey with my injections for my ipamorelin. I still have done it. I think it's helped, but there you go. Now, in terms of actual benefits of human growth hormone, ipamorelin, and things like that, my experience with the Metformin 2 is that it's much more mild than it was with TRT. So when you go on TRT, boom, you feel it. God damn, you feel great. It takes about 2 weeks, then like, bam, you're awesome. Like, this is fucking great. You feel fantastic, a lot of energy and drive, motivation, you're happier, you're less touchy. It's great. When you go on ipamorelin, metformin, even human growth hormone, you don't really feel a big difference. It's a very mild difference. Mostly it's in how you look over time. And my understanding, it takes about 6 months to really start feeling the real benefits or experiencing the benefits in your skin and things like that. It's not like TRT. So you gotta be a lot more patient with this stuff. So the good news is human growth hormone, when I start taking that next year, I won't have to use ipamorelin anymore, I don't think. I could be wrong about that. Maybe my doctor will still have me take it. I don't know. I don't think so though. But I want to take the ipamorelin, and my understanding is, I could be wrong on this, my understanding is human growth hormone does not need to be refrigerated. Thank fucking God. It's just a pen. So it's gonna be a lot easier on my lifestyle to start taking human growth hormone as opposed to peptides that just stimulate the growth. And I'll be taking real human growth hormone, so I will start feeling at least a little better within a few months, and I'll start experiencing the anti-aging effects going forward for the rest of my life, because as I said, I'm gonna take this stuff literally for the rest of my life. I won't take very much, take just very, very, very little, but for the rest of my life, every day. And I believe it's a daily injection. I believe that's correct. When I start taking human growth hormone next year, I will do another entire podcast on it with all the data and with my experiences. And I will also do at least 1, maybe 2 YouTube videos on how I inject and how it looks and the process and things like that. How old do you need to be to start doing this stuff? That's a very important question, because you don't want to be super young and do this shit. So I'll address TRT first, then I'll address the human growth hormone second. And maybe metformin as a third thing. So TRT, generally speaking, most men are not going to need TRT until they're over the age of 40. However, there is a significant percentage of men under 40 and even under 30 who these days are low T. So that's why I say, regardless of how old you are, even if you're a young guy in your 20s, go get your testosterone checked. And you might be horrified to find out your goddamn testosterone is like 200, 300. There was a big thing on YouTube about 6 months ago. This big popular YouTube channel of these 3 or 4 young guys, these young beta male guys who all got their testosterone checked. And they're all like 230, 240, 310. These are guys in their 20s. Holy fuck. Before I went on TRT in my early 40s, my testosterone was like 540. 6 something, 500 something, 600 something. Double these guys in their 20s. And these are young, skinny, normal looking guys in their 20s. Terrible. So get your testosterone checked. And if it's very low, you should get on TRT irrelevant of your age. Generally speaking, most guys, your testosterone will be fine if you're under the age of 40 or more or less okay. You probably won't need it. Over 40, you're probably going to need it. There's a small percentage of men over 40 who are the opposite extreme, and they have really high testosterone, 700, 800, post 40, just completely naturally. They don't even exercise. They just have really good genetics. So in that case, you don't need to take it. You still need to keep checking your T. Don't ever let it go below 700 in my layman's opinion. Okay, so that's the age requirement on that. Metformin, I would say, and I'm not a doctor, please consult with a doctor on this, 40. 40 or your 40s, you could start taking metformin. I don't know if it's a good idea to take metformin. As a matter of fact, I know it's not. I remember some conversations now. You don't want to take metformin under age 40 or even frankly under 45. Just not a good idea. So I would say 40 or probably safer 45 before you start looking hardcore at metformin. You might also have to factor in body fat percentage. If you're a 40-year-old guy and you're really skinny, metformin may not be a good idea. Now, if you're 42 and you're a big fat fuck and you're trying to lose weight, maybe metformin might be a good idea. Consult with your doctor as always. Human growth hormone, at least at the youngest 45. I don't think you should even look at human growth hormone until you are at least 45. Taking human growth hormone under 45 may actually be dangerous. You're too young, man. Don't do it. I didn't start paying attention to human growth hormone really until my mid-40s. And notice I am 49, I'm still not taking it. I just started taking peptides this year, and that's pussy human growth hormone. It's not even human growth hormone. It's something that stimulates human growth hormone. And I didn't start that till I was 49. And like I said, though, in my perfect world, I would have started human growth hormone, you know, lifestyle and money withstanding, maybe 48. So 45. 45, start looking at human growth hormone. If you're just slightly under 45, but you look old, maybe you could talk to your doctor and look at options. But I would draw that line at about 45 for human growth hormone. Certainly if you're 50 or over, absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. And, you know, when I learn more about human growth hormone, once I start taking it, and a few years into it, I may assign some alpha male 2.0 standards. Because one of my alpha male 2.0 standards is, if you're an alpha male over the age of 40, you must be on TRT, some form of TRT, unless your testosterone is already naturally over 700, and it probably isn't. That's just an alpha male 2.0 standard I've given my audience. And maybe down the road, once I learn and experience more of the human growth hormone stuff, I will put a new standard for human growth hormone for alpha male 2.0. I may say, hey, if you're an alpha male 2.0 and you're over the age of 53, you should be taking either peptides and or human growth hormone, this amount, blah, 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 blah. And I'll give you specific IGF measurements for that once I get more into this. Again, when I really start in this human growth hormone journey next year, I'll give you more information. So that's it. A lot of information on this stuff. Anti-aging is very important for the alpha male 2.0 because you need to be a dynamic, strong, motivated, young-looking guy for the rest of your life, both in your business life and for your mission and for your woman life, because you'll never be monogamous. If this is a popular topic, I will certainly do more podcasts and or videos on this. So let me know. Until then, I will see you soon. Have fun. Bye.